All right, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Got a couple things for you today. The first thing that I want to talk about, the main story. Then the second thing is actually going to be longer than the main story probably, and it's just clearing up some misinformation that's going around, primarily about my last video, but more so about what the video was about, the news, and we'll get into that in just a second. But someone is trying to create Bitconnect 2.0 once again. Uh-oh. And at this point, yeah, it just amazes me that people would put money into this. But we should probably put $100 into it and find out, right? It's just so addictive. Another attempt at reviving Bitconnect. It was a joke. Come on, it was a bad joke. Most cryptocurrency enthusiasts are too familiar with the concept of Bitconnect. It's the well-known Ponzi scheme, which came to an abrupt end some time ago, which I also connect with one of the main driving forces of the price in 2017, as everybody had to go out and buy Bitcoin to get Bitconnect to use that Bitconnect to actually become involved in the Ponzi scheme, the beautiful, lovely pyramid scheme. Another thing too is that a lot of people actually got into crypto because of a Bitconnect. They saw it in videos or something like that, or somebody told them about it. Interestingly enough. So to date, most of the stolen funds haven't been recovered, despite there being numerous lawsuits against Bitconnect and its promoters, especially the YouTube promoters. Nobody ever really got in trouble for that either. Those YouTubers. Late last year, the cryptocurrency community was taken aback when Bitcoin 2.0 was announced for the first time, albeit the associated website claimed this nefarious Ponzi scheme would return shortly. And it's evident that it hasn't been the case so far. They were going to do that Bitconnect 2.0 afterwards, and you were going to be able to use your BCC and turn it into BCX or something like that. They were going to call it. Quite interesting. I don't know. So getting rid of any references to Bitconnect is not a viable course of action, but fewer mentions of this scheme would certainly be beneficial to the industry as a whole, and for some unknown reasons, it would appear an email is making rounds which claims the Bitconnect website will return. On the project web page itself, a countdown timer is visible, which explains the project will be back soon, and the launch is still about 6 weeks away. So according to a very basic Whois search, it appears the domain name registered through Namecheap will expire in about a month today. So that would mean the domain will be taken offline prior to it launching. So no one knows who's in control of the website or the package, but sooner or later, it's probably going to get kicked offline. Kind of hope it does, but who knows? Maybe it'll spark another bull run, but don't invest into it. And I guess if you didn't invest, then it wouldn't. But anyway, don't do it. So good old Bitconnect 2.0 going on. So I just can't believe that somebody would actually try to do this. Although, you know what? It actually makes total sense because nobody ever gets busted in these schemes. It seems like 10% at best get busted when they do crypto schemes, so it's actually just really not surprising at all. But to clear up some misinformation, at least best I can. So yesterday's video, I believe, did not have misinformation in it. But of course, there are some Craig Wright believers going around and sort of putting out documents and saying, these are the real documents. Everybody seems to be reading the fake documents. That makes total sense with Craig Wright. That he may have some goons going around for him. So here's the thing: if you believe that Craig Wright is Satoshi, isn't that kind of like a little bit like religion? There's actually no real evidence, but if you walk into a church and say, "Hey, Mr. Priest, how can I believe in God?" and he'd just be like, "You got to have faith." Like, that's it, right? We all get that. But when it comes to a person, there is actual evidence you can put forth, and there is no evidence that Craig Wright is Satoshi. There's some speculation that he is or isn't, but there isn't either way. So don't believe that he is, because that's like faith, and that's really weird and kind of creepy. But, of course, he has his followers, and I think it's not only, half of them at best are probably believers that he's Satoshi and that he does good things, and then I'd say the other half, if not the majority, are probably like, hey, I gotta defend this because I bought a bunch of Bitcoin SV and now I need it to go up in price badly. So yeah, I can always tell if people are bag holders, because if I'm in a live stream or just talking to the community in general. And if I bash a particular cryptocurrency or just at least critique it, there you can tell the people with no sense of humility, because they will attack you for attacking like EOS or Verge or some kind of coin, any coin, just name it. And then you just know, I always just ask myself, how much EOS do you have exactly? Whenever people get overly defensive. So I think it's kind of like that with Bitcoin SV. But let me show you a particular comment that has shown up a few times on my channel from different people. And again, just a few times, so it's not like the majority. Of course, this is the vast minority of people, but you haven't done much research here, I see. The actual documents are being circulated online now. See blah, 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 and beyond on Twitter. Do some research. Well, let's do some research then. I got you covered, Dylan. So moving on here to this article that's been going around. So this is the new paper that's been going around, because on the last show I showed you some of the original documents and things like that somebody signed this address that appears on the court documents submitted for court between Kleiman and Craig Wright. So it starts off with 16 COU, and it says somebody signed the transaction. Somebody verified and said does not belong to Satoshi or Craig Wright. Craig Wright's a liar and a fraud, and therefore somebody verified. We're good to go. But that doesn't necessarily tell us who owns it. That could be literally just about anybody doing that owns it. But what it does tell us is that it's a very old address and somebody is still in control of it. Now, this paper here says Jameson Lopp and others showed a court document stating that Craig Wright owns address Z. The owner of address Z signed a message saying Craig Wright is a fraud. However, that document has now been proven to be a forgery. This is the real document. It does not contain that address. And I don't think anybody can believe this. And here's why. First of all, one of the people that actually emailed me, and they emailed me the same, or they didn't email me, but they messaged on my YouTube, and it's people like this, and this makes, wow. I mean, because I know a lot of you do not watch the show, but you probably should on this one. I know you guys mostly just podcast or listen to it while you're making your morning coffee. You do you. But this is a page that makes absolute total sense, that goes around and tries to anti-FUD Craig Wright and Bitcoin SV to make money. This is nothing new. This shouldn't be anything surprising to anybody. This is just basic psychology and fear, if you will. And it's a Twitter page with a background of Bitcoin SV, just blatantly plastered. And his title is Use the Blockchain, BSV is Bitcoin. So there's a lot of people like this. So this makes a lot of sense. This is kind of like, it doesn't even matter the product. Let's say Lamborghini messed up really bad, right? And there was just absolute total proof showing that they messed up. They messed up bad. They really ruined their reputation. I don't know. Just think of something. Let's use our imagination here. And there was one guy just going around and being, like these guys are all wrong. This is false information. Blah blah blah. Defending Lamborghini. And then you click on his profile page, and his background is Lamborghini. His name is Lambo Rick. It says like Lamborghini best ever, and like all of it is just nothing but pictures of Lamborghinis or like pictures of his Lamborghini on his Twitter. You'd be like, yeah, no, this makes a lot of sense. Like you basically have no credit if you're that much of an unobjective fanboy. I mean, you could be a fan of Lamborghini all you want. I don't care. Or Bitcoin SV. But I'm just saying, if I go to your page and I see this, I go, okay, like you basically lost credibility. I'm sorry. Like you're just like nothing will change your mind, right? You own Bitcoin SV. I understand that. And you can't have it drop in value. Nothing will change your mind. Even if you know that you're wrong, you have to keep up that facade anyway and keep it going. So, he posts pictures like this to my YouTube as well. And what it is that picture I just showed you on Reddit. So on one end, we have, this is the new one. You can see this has just straight up been recently printed. It's very, very new. And this is the one that was submitted to court that the Craig Wright fanboys and Bitcoin SV fanboys, I guess, I don't know, are saying is a fraud. Okay, so let's examine these two and see the difference first of all. So the only difference, it says I Stephen D'Amelio of level 3, blah 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 in Sydney. Says, one, I'm the solicitor acting for Mr. Craig Wright and Hotwire Preemptive Intelligence. On the 11th of October, 2013, Mr. Wright came into my office and showed me his HTC mobile phone. On the screen of the Wright mobile, I viewed and verified the following Bitcoin addresses. So we see these following Bitcoin addresses. This 16 COU one is the one that had been signed. And so therefore, it's probably more likely that Craig Wright does not actually own that, and that he just went around and found some old addresses that belong to him to give him the Satoshi right. I don't understand. If he wins this, apparently he's Satoshi. I don't know. In his mind. And then this is the new one. Again, the same thing, but just different addresses. Like 5 totally different addresses. So there's 5 on this one with the 16 COU that somebody had clearly verified that, the writers are calling this one a fake. And then this is the real one that has been recently printed out. Clearly, it's absolutely immaculate and straight, and on other paper that somebody clearly printed out. And 5 different addresses. So again, the main difference between these is just 5 different addresses, period. And it says, number 4, it says, I viewed the Bitcoin wallet addresses by scrolling down the screen, Wright mobile. It appeared to me that if Wright wanted to, he could control all of and make transactions in the Bitcoin wallet addresses. Well, I mean, that doesn't say like what wallet he was using or what website or where were these keys exactly on his HTC mobile in 2013. There really weren't. There wasn't too good mobile. I couldn't even tell you a wallet on mobile in 2013. Maybe there was, but where were these addresses? Look, let's hear it a little bit more. But it doesn't. It says he could control these, and then it says 8. I make solemn declaration conscientiously, believing the same to be true, in the virtue of the provisions of the Oaths Act 1900. Well, so, but, right, so it appeared to me, and I make this declaration conscientiously, believing the same to be true. So that's not particularly convincing. You could show me an address, and I'm not going to say it appears to me that you control all of those addresses. I mean, that's a weird thing to say. It appears to me that they are, or like I actually witnessed a transaction going through. You know what I mean? It just doesn't sound like much of a Bitcoin aficionado here, and it just doesn't sound good at all. So, again, another thing we can do is go to Court Listener. And we could look at these documents: Kleiman versus Wright, District Court of Florida, and these are what was submitted against all defendants. So these are what was submitted, filed by Ira Kleiman. These are the pages, the other ones. So these were submitted a long time ago, last year, I believe. So the date here says that it's new. Date filed is much newer, but you can see here, if you go to the dates of these, they're all filed on the 14th of May in 2018, so a year ago. So these were filed an entire year ago, and somebody just now signed a transaction. And let's see. So this is the official court document. You actually see here that they actually stamped this as well. So these ones have the stamp and an H on it at the top, and it has the 16 COU. And these are clearly much older, as of 2013. This is clearly much older and were submitted over a year ago. So if we look at those other pictures, there is no H on this anymore, and there is no stamp. So somebody just basically like remade this and put different addresses on. So you might say to yourself, we're only focusing on this bottom address again because that is the one that has changed the most, that had this signed transaction. The other ones I talked about in this article here yesterday in my video, and it turns out the 16 COU one is identified as a Mt. Gox user. And so let's take a look at these. So this is the 16 COU one, the one that was signed recently, and is in the original document in the court. This is the 16 COU one right here in a Bitcoin block explorer. Just put the address in. Let's check it out. So the total received to this wallet is 160,000 Bitcoin. As of right now, it has virtually no Bitcoin in it. Somebody moved all of it, and somewhat recently as well. Not necessarily somewhat recently, but you can see the latest transaction was the 28th of April in 2019. And you can see like they're just starting to get rid of their final bits of Bitcoin. So these latest transactions are not very much at all, except for this one where this transaction, this 16 COU moved to numerous other public keys, other wallets, and it was quite a significant amount. So 6,000 here, 3,800 there. So that was when the majority of it. So let's go all the way to the first transaction, and we could see when this wallet actually really came to existence. So just scroll all the way down, and it looked like it was made in 2011. And initially, several addresses put into this one address of 3,200 Bitcoin into that address, and then eventually, it went from there. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean a lot, but we do get to look at it a little bit. So this was made in 2011, so that's clearly not a Satoshi wallet, right? As is in the official court documents, because it's just a totally random wallet for the most part. 2011, Satoshi stopped talking around that time. Like he probably wasn't still mining, if Satoshi was ever mining at all. We really don't know. At least he was probably a little bit to test it, of course. But if we go on to the new one, we can see that this wallet was made in 2009 on the 9th of January. So this is clearly one of the first wallets, for sure. How is it the first? One of the oldest, but definitely not the oldest wallet. But you can see that it had 50 Bitcoin in it all the way until 2019, when somebody essentially moved the Bitcoin out. No inputs, newly generated coin. So like, is this the Genesis wallet? No inputs, newly generated coins. Is this the Genesis wallet? I don't know. I might be a little confused here. Sorry guys. But yeah, so 50 Bitcoin, one of the first wallets, clearly one of the very first wallets. But what does this mean? Like in 2019, now it doesn't have any Bitcoin. It's just it doesn't have any Bitcoin in it. So yeah, so confusing. So like, what does that even mean? Why was this changed? And this one has a stamp on it. So which one would you honestly rather believe? And I don't mean to defend courts and the system and the man, but I would believe this one that has been submitted over a year ago was stamped by a court as evidence of his wallets. Clearly from Craig Wright, because it's iSteve developed, verify that Craig Wright had these in his address. But now we have this totally new printed. This is clearly newly printed piece of paper with brand new ink on it. Absolutely looks gorgeous piece of paper, to be totally honest. Definitely doesn't look like a court document. Absolutely nothing stamped on it whatsoever. Just some people that signed it, and it just says, yeah, 2013. This does not look new at all. It just doesn't look new at all. Like somebody recently printed this out. So what did you recently print it out from, and why doesn't it have a stamp on it? So clearly this isn't. So clearly this paper here, that you can see that every paper has to be stamped at some point. I suppose, I would imagine it would be. Well, maybe not. I don't know how the court works here, but maybe it's just not particular evidence, only on certain things or what have you. So you can see the stamps all over this thing, and looks like a stamp there, and maybe whenever there's pertinent information, it has to be stamped. There's another stamp there. So it's stamped everywhere. And why isn't it stamped on this one? So there are people out there that thoroughly believe that this is a more believable piece of paper than this one that was submitted a year ago, that's supposedly from 2013. It really just makes no sense. So the people that are attacking, or if my viewers become confused at that, like, hey, like I thought MrSotko said it was this. Well, it probably is. Again, there's a little bit of flip flopping going on, but seriously, just ask yourself this question: which one would you rather believe? One with a court stamp on it that's submitted a year ago before this court case took into effect, before like when evidence was going into effect, rather, and now the court date is actually just like a month away, basically, or this brand new printed document that clearly doesn't have any stamps on it, that isn't put into official evidence. So it's just like, oh geez, which one? So you wanted me to do my research? You got it. Moving on to CoinMarketCap, 249 billion market cap. We have had the repumpening. So we had the dumpening, followed by the pumpening. Oh, crypto. I've never seen that before. So we had a little upside down BART going on. Back up to 8,000 Bitcoin. I think I've seen it as high as like 8,200 briefly. But back up to 254 Ethereum. So it looks like we're back on the way up, but again, I would expect some pretty big dips, and usually the way I kind of look at like the thousands, like 8,000, 9,000, $10,000 Bitcoin, is that there's always a psychological barrier every 1,000. So if it goes to 9,000, it'll briefly go over it, and it'll almost certainly go back down. Or it'll briefly go to 9,300, 9,200, and then it'll go back down. It'll do this usually a couple times before it will officially breach. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's just building up so fast. But usually there is this like psychological barrier. You can kind of see that in play. You can see a lot of people putting orders around that amount, and then sometimes taking them away and getting a little skittish and then selling. It's pretty obvious to see. So be careful when you're trading around those marks. Always a good thing to just be a little bit patient around those. You could manipulate them a little bit if you're good enough or willing enough. But that's all I had for you guys today. Just wanted to clear a couple things up and also talk about Bitconnect 2.0 because, man, we're going to have a lot of investors in there. And if it goes under again, which it will, lesson learned, guys. But that's all I have for you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps me out a lot. My social media in the description below. And as usual, I will see you guys next time.